Hey guys, it's Mr. Fanatic, and whoa, hold on 1 second. Is that the first time I've ever referred to myself by my YouTube name? Like, 'cause I think that is right there. We're like, what, 5, 6 videos in? I think that's the first time I've ever referred to myself by my YouTube name. Anyways, as you guys saw in the title, today is another story time video, and I want to tell you guys about what is quite possibly the worst customer I have ever dealt with. Now, I've dealt with my fair share of bad customers because I used to work at CVS and at El Pollo Loco, and it's truly remarkable the type of human beings you come across when you work in customer service. However, when someone has asked me who is the worst customer that you have ever dealt with, there has always been one guy that immediately comes to mind, and it is not even close. Actually, I take that back. There is actually one guy I can think of that comes close to him, but we'll talk about him in another storytime video. Outside of that, everyone else just doesn't even come close to just how terrible of a customer this one guy was. And here's the thing, this guy was so terrible. He was so terrible that I literally remember the exact day I came across him. That's how much I remember him. It's like a holiday, the terrible customer attack. Like, that's literally what it is. Like, this guy was so terrible that I actually remember what day he came in. I even remember what time he came at. Before I tell you about my encounter with this customer, I think it's important for me to explain some of the stuff that was going on, especially with me, before I encountered this customer. So this was around the time when the pandemic was at its peak. And let's just say those were some of the most miserable years of my life. I was absolutely miserable during those times. And I had just gotten so sick and tired of dealing with all the customers there because the customers were starting to treat me very terribly, and I just couldn't deal with it anymore. So when I heard that my cousin was getting married in Mexico, I had decided that I was going to take a vacation because I had realized that this could be my only chance to just get away from customers for the time being. And I absolutely took advantage of it. I went to Mexico. I went to my cousin's wedding. You know, I had a great time over there and all that. When I finally got back, I had realized that there was something weird going on. The customers actually weren't treating me that terrible. They actually were pretty pleasant to be around, and the shifts were going by really fast. So I kind of thought to myself, you know, maybe this is what I needed. Maybe I just needed a vacation, and that's it. For the first week and a half, it really did feel like that was the case. Everything went smoothly, and there was no problems at all. However, when that first week and a half ended, take all the nasty qualities that customers had before I went on the vacation and just quadruple that. And that is what the customers immediately turned into. Whatever they were before the vacation, they were 4 or 5 times worse than what they were before I went on the vacation. These were just truly some of the most horrible and nasty people I have ever came across. And I just honestly couldn't believe just how some of these people acted and how quickly they got angry at me, and they would just start getting angry at me for everything. It honestly felt as if like there were times when people would literally come to CVS for the sole purpose to just vent and just let out their frustrations onto me. So that of course was really sickening right there. And it got to a point where I had actually tried to leave CVS. I tried to apply for a Chick-fil-A, but they had turned me down. So I kind of just saw that as a sign of, oh, maybe I'm supposed to be here at CVS for the time being. So, you know, we'll deal with it. But then, then the day the customer came in, January 20th, 2021. Like I said, I remember the exact day he came in. That's how terrible this guy was. So starting my shift off, I will say that I was already sad going into my shift because January 20th, 2021, that was the same day that Philip Rivers had announced his retirement. Now, if you don't know who Philip Rivers is, that was the quarterback of the Chargers from 2004 to 2019. And of course, as you guys know, I am a Chargers fan. So I was definitely really sad and depressed because of that, since he was basically the only player player that had played every single game. Like, no joke, he played every single game. He never missed a game, and he was literally the only player that I got to see every single Sunday. So to see that he had retired, it had definitely made me really sad, because I realized I was never going to see him play again. But of course, you know, I have to keep trucking on. So the day goes by, and of course the customers are just as nasty as ever. And I'm just right there just thinking to myself, okay, like, please, can the shift just end? And it was around 3:25. Yeah, I know. I know what time even as well. Like, I know that's pretty crazy. But it was around like 3:25, and my shift was supposed to end at 3:30. I'm just thinking to myself, come on. I'm almost there. Please, shift, just end. Please, just end. But then that is when he came up to the counter. It's important for me to know that this guy, when he came up to the counter, there was really nothing about him that struck me as, oh, he could definitely be a tough customer to deal with, or hey, this guy seems kind of weird or kind of sketchy. He just looked like your average, normal, everyday customer. So of course we start to interact, and the thing is, with CVS employees, we're supposed to ask if somebody wants a bag, and of course, you know, if they say no, then we don't give them a bag. But then if they say yes, then we give them a bag. But we do charge 10 cents for bags at CVS. So of course I ask him if he wants a bag, and he says no. Now, the thing with me is that I kind of have a bad memory. So what would happen sometimes is that somebody would say to me that they don't want a bag, but then I'll accidentally start bagging their items. But then, of course, when the person just reminds me, oh, hey, you know, like, I didn't want a bag, I would immediately just remember, oh, yeah, that's right. And then I'll just take the items out, and then that's it. So the same thing happens here, where he says to me that he did not want a bag, and then I accidentally start bagging his items. So then he says to me, oh, are bags free? I'm like, oh, no, they're not. They're 10 cents. But then he says to me, oh, did you charge me 10 cents for a bag? And here's the thing. I was like 99% sure that I did not charge him 10 cents for a bag, but there's still that 1% part of me that I'm just thinking, well, maybe I did charge him, so let's just make sure, just so that then we didn't accidentally charge him anything and that he doesn't lose any money and stuff. So I just simply say to the guy, I don't think I did, but just in case, can you pull up your phone and check your receipt just to make sure I did it? Because in case you didn't know, at CVS, you have the chance to get your receipts sent to you digitally. So basically, they get sent to your email. That's all I just said. I just simply said, hey, I don't think I charged you for a bag, but just in case, can you pull up your receipt on your phone just to make sure that I did not charge you for a bag? That's all I said. What follows next is quite possibly the largest meltdown and temper tantrum I have ever seen anyone throw. I don't think I've ever seen anyone get as angry as this person did over something so small. This guy then looks at me and he then says, are you effing kidding me, you effing B word? You charge me 10 effing cents for an effing bag? This guy all of a sudden starts yelling, screaming, and cussing at me, all because he thinks he got charged for 10 cents for a bag. Let me remind you, that's really the crazy thing. He's not even certain that he got charged 10 cents for a bag. He's not even certain about that. He thinks he may have gotten charged 10 cents for a bag. But yeah, in his mind, that's enough. He's already going crazy and ballistic. This guy starts yelling, screaming, and cussing at me. He's like, no, F you, okay? F you. You charge me 10 effing cents for a bag. How could you do this? And there was this phrase that he kept on saying over and over again, where he was like, oh, I don't care that you charge me 10 cents, okay? I can crap out pennies for all that I care. It's the fact that you weren't listening to me. And this guy is just going absolutely insane. And here's the thing. If that had happened to me today, I probably would have handled it differently. I probably would have said something back to him and definitely start talking back to him. But this was me from 4 years ago. So at the time, I had never seen anybody get this angry over something so small. So when he was yelling and screaming at me, I just stood there in shock the entire time, because I couldn't believe how this guy was acting. I absolutely couldn't believe how he was acting over something so small. And this guy was just yelling and screaming and cussing, and it was just so crazy. It got to the point where I actually kind of expected other customers to start intervening, because that's how crazy this guy was acting. This guy just had no self-awareness for how he was making himself look, for how just how much of a total douchebag he was making himself out to be. The thing is that I had actually legitimately contemplated probably calling the police because that's how crazy this guy was acting over something so small. And the thing is, at some point, I finally decided to just call the manager up. So I finally get the manager to come up, and the manager to ask him like, "Oh, what's wrong?" And then this guy starts cussing at my manager as well. He starts saying to my manager, "Oh, your employee charged me 10 extra cents for a bag. How could your employee do this to me? How could he do this to me?" And then of course he says the same phrase that I said earlier about how, "Oh, I don't care that he charged me 10 cents. Okay, I can crap out paying for all that I care. It's the fact that he wasn't listening." And there's two things that happened that were after this. I was just so done with CVS. The first is after seeing what this guy was doing, how this guy was acting, my manager decided to give him the 10 cents. Now, I know what some people are gonna say. It's just 10 cents. What's the big deal? The big deal is that this guy is acting totally insane and he is essentially getting rewarded for his bad behavior. This guy was yelling, screaming, and cussing, and he is essentially getting rewarded for his bad behavior. And then that kind of leads me to my second thing. There were many coworkers of mine that actually saw the whole thing unfold, and yet they said nothing. They just sat there, watched the whole thing, and said nothing to this guy. When that happened, I knew I had to leave CVS at that point. And it was pretty crazy because the next customer that came in also was starting to like get mad at me. And at first I thought I was gonna have to deal with it again. All of a sudden, this customer had a switch flip in them and they just automatically weren't angry anymore. And then they even started questioning about how angry the other guy got. And I just remember that day when I got to my car after my shift was over, I remember just screaming and yelling in frustration and anger because I just couldn't believe that somebody would treat me like that. And it got worse because when I went home that day, I went home and I just wanted to play some DVD, but then my internet wasn't working, so it forced me out of matches. And the people in those matches thought that I had rage quit, so they had sent me messages basically trash talking me, which made me feel even worse. And I just remember that whole day was just terrible. That honestly was one of the worst days of my life. A few days later, I talked to someone about the whole situation, and I remember they had said to me, "Oh, the guy must have felt really dumb when he went to his car and saw that he wasn't charged 10 cents for a bag." And I remember correcting that person. I said, "It doesn't matter. He won at the very end. He won because he got rewarded for it. He got his 10 cents. It doesn't matter if he went to his car and saw that he wasn't charged 10 cents. He got what he wanted. That's all that matters. He basically won at the very end." So it goes without saying that I immediately just left CVS after that whole encounter. I wouldn't say that encounter with that customer was the main reason that I left, but it certainly was the final straw as to why I left. I think I was gone by the time February hit, so literally less than a month after that incident is when I just left CVS because yeah, that was just so terrible how that whole thing went down. But anyways, yep, that is the worst customer I have ever dealt with. Thank you guys for listening to this story. I know I sound a little bit angrier than usual while telling this story. That's just simply because this customer was just so terrible where every single time I talk about him, he just brings out total rage out of me. So sorry if I sounded mad, but hey, at least you guys got to hear a funny story. At least to you guys, it was funny. But I also wanted to talk about some things that are going to be going on this channel. For the next couple of weeks, I'm not going to be able to record reaction videos for the Chargers because I'm gonna be very busy, and in fact I'm actually gonna be busy on a project that's gonna come to this channel, so stay tuned for that. But I will try to probably make a post about what my reaction is towards certain games, whatever games I miss. Just stay tuned for that. But I promise you, once I'm finally done with this project that I'm working on, we'll go right back to Charger games and go right back to reacting to the games, giving you guys, you know, silly reactions or at least recreations of what my reaction was during the game. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.